Sometime in the not too distant past, there was a sneaky but significant shift in the three-row SUV segment. And it's been a long time coming, if I'm completely honest, but that doesn't make it any less of a shocker now that it's here.
And I know that car pricing has gone up across the entire industry, but the Kia Telluride has officially surpassed the Toyota Highlander for being more expensive, which is a really bold move from Kia because it's also a pretty big margin. The cheapest Telluride you can buy these days is about 53 grand. This X-Line model we're driving is almost 64 grand.
Now, it's not as if we're saying it isn't worth shelling out for one of these, but before you do, you should see how it stacks up next to the Toyota Highlander, and that just so happens to be what we're planning to do here. For more expert car reviews, don't forget to share our channel and subscribe so you can catch some of this and maybe even a little of that. Well, Jody, before we start, I do think we need to talk about the fact that it's raining.
It's so rainy. Yesterday when we were shooting all the B-roll, it was like sunny and dry and it felt like spring, but hey, this is Canada, so what can you do?
So just like when I shot that Lexus RZ video not too long ago, this happens sometimes. We try to make the best use of our time. We decided to do reviews of the Highlander and the Telluride separately and then do a comparison at the end of the week. And that way we could use footage from both of those reviews, save ourselves and our video producer, Will Johnson, some time. But this time of year especially, the unpredictability of the weather means
you deal with it.
It's not all gonna look the same, but that doesn't matter that much. We just wanted to let you guys know. We also want to let you know that we do not agree at all on these two.
And it's so funny because Dan and I usually agree on like 90% of things. This time we're really butting heads about the Highlander versus the Telluride. So make your case for why you think the Highlander is the bee's knees.
I'd say it starts and ends with value, which to me is very important for Canadian families. It's not my job to dictate everybody else's budget, but I have a feeling that stretching budgets is something that's on the mind of Canadians,
especially right now in this economy.
Absolutely. So that to me is number one on the list. Value, value, value.
And that's really interesting to me because for so long, Kia was the value brand. And now, unfortunately, we can't keep calling it that.
Even the Telluride, when this thing came out, it was very reasonable. It started in like the low $40,000 range before freight and tax. So let's just say it was about, I don't know, 44 or 45 grand for the cheapest one. Now, the cheapest one of those Kias that you can buy is like $52,500 before tax versus this thing that starts at like 47.5 grand before tax.
That's actually a really big difference too.
That blows my mind. When I saw that, I was so shocked.
Okay, so how did they stack up like feature-wise?
Well, before we even get to that, let's look at the fact that there are 3 Highlander trims that are cheaper than or as expensive as the cheapest Telluride. And then the most expensive Highlander, it caps at about 57.5 grand for the limited with the platinum package.
Wow.
Versus $65,000 for the most expensive Telluride.
Okay, that is a pretty big difference.
That is just insane to me. So now, to your point, features here, not great, and not even just at the bottom of the lineup, even at the top. There's stuff that you would expect. You can get Napa leather, heated and ventilated front seats, but nothing in the back. There's no heated or ventilated rear seats. And I'm pretty sure heated rear seats are standard across the Telluride lineup. So that is a big difference. Other stuff, there's only this small 8-inch touchscreen that is in most of the Highlander lineup. There's a 12.3-inch touchscreen at the top, whereas in the Telluride, it's a 12.3-inch screen across the board. So yes, there are differences when it comes to features, but are those worth that much of a price difference, in your opinion?
For me, I would say yes. So when I'm recommending a 3-row SUV to people, I'm really looking for one that raises the bar for its whole segment. And sometimes that means that, like, yes, you do have to pay more for more stuff. But there are a lot of features in the Telluride that I feel don't make or break the experience. And so I do see where you're coming from with your value argument.
So let's just talk about the space in here as well. Yeah, it's not quite as roomy as the Telluride, but it's still pretty good. That second row, it's reasonably roomy. The third row, not so great, but up here, I love it. lots of little shelves and cubbies, great storage. There's also wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which you can't get in the Telluride.
That was one of my main complaints about the Telluride, is that there's a wireless charger, but no wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, which is a bit of a bummer.
Everything else though, I really like it. This thing's easy to drive. It's fairly efficient. It has a new 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. And I'm with a lot of people out there going with these downsized turbo motors in such a big SUV. This thing weighs almost 2,000 kilograms.
Is it enough though? Can it keep up?
Absolutely. It's actually got tons of guts. I was really impressed with the acceleration. And the other cool thing is, even when you have this thing in eco mode, you know, a lot of cars or SUVs, when you have it in eco mode, they can feel really lethargic. This thing, it's more like Hyundai's kind of smart mode or intelligent, whatever they call it, where when you get your foot into it, it'll just get up and go like it's in normal or even sport mode. And this 8-speed automatic transmission is very quick to downshift. As soon as you get your foot into the throttle, it knows you're probably looking to merge or pass on the highway, whatever you're trying to do, and it responds very quickly. And this thing has 310 pound-feet of torque. And here we go. It doesn't sound great.
That's pretty good pickup though.
It boogies.
And I feel like that's faster than the V6 that it used to come with.
100%. So this thing technically has less power. But guys, don't forget, horsepower matters less than torque. Torque is the stuff that gets you going. That's what you want. So the fact that this has 17% more torque than that V6, it's also about 17% more than the Telluride's V6.
That's pretty impressive. But with the downsized engine, is your fuel economy better?
Yes, much better. Okay, so earlier this week when I picked it up, I averaged 9.1 liters per 100 kilometers across about 215 kilometers of
That's
driving.
pretty good.
Yes, it was a lot of highway, but there was still some city in there too. I would say it was probably maybe 65-35 in favor of the highway. Now, officially, it's rated for 9.9 liters per 100 kilometers. So even if I'm around that range, which I am right now, that's still impressive, because if you take a look at the V6 of old, that thing was rated for 10.4 combined, which is still better than the Telluride.
That's true.
By a significant margin. I do think Toyota kind of was conservative in its estimate. So it went with that 9.9 as a sort of fail-safe. It looks okay on paper,
right,
and it's even better in practice. And I remember one of our contributors reviewed this exact same model 2 years ago with the V6 and averaged like 14.1 liters per 100 kilometers.
That's a lot.
So the fact that this thing is right around that 9.9 mark and it is able to do better without much effort, that is the big difference maker. Because if you take a look at NRCan's fuel economy labels, technically, this thing is only supposed to save you about $100 per year compared to the V6.
It seems like it should be more than that.
I know. The average annual fuel cost is like $2,475 versus $2,575 for last year's V6, okay? Really, the reason that this happened is the smog rating. Going with these downsized engines, it's not about fuel savings, it's about saving the environment, right? So it's got a 7 out of 10 smog rating versus the V6's 5. That's the big reason why you're seeing this, but it's nice to see that in practice, it will save you money at the pumps as well.
Perfect.
Now, I'm not here to just heap all kinds of praise on the Highlander. It is not perfect. And the big one for me, the brake feel.
Why?
Non-existent. It's terrible. And I don't think I've ever driven a brand new vehicle. This thing doesn't even have 3,000 kilometers on it with less brake pedal feel. And that's one of those things that to me matters more than steering feel,
Yes,
more than suspension, because you can't tell what's happening. You can't feel the pressure being applied to the brakes at all.
That makes me a bit nervous.
It's very bizarre. And again, keep in mind, this thing weighs almost 2,000 kilograms. And you can really feel them when you're trying to slow it down, especially if you're coming up on a yellow light. Let's say you need to slow down in a hurry. You actually don't know if it's going to work. It is very bizarre. And then getting back to the steering and the suspension, it's not great. And the weird thing is, this is supposed to have a sport-tuned suspension.
Okay.
But there is a lot of body roll when you're cornering. You're going to feel it when we come up here to this chicane. It just feels very top heavy, and I wasn't expecting that. It's very normal for a 3-row SUV this size, but what's not normal is when it's supposed to have this, sport-tuned suspension. It does have shorter rebound strokes, So you can feel it in that way, but just how tippy it is, it's
Okay,
very
let's
bizarre.
see.
Like you're gonna feel it as we, see
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's very, very tippy.
Yeah, and your phone sliding everywhere.
Like it's very bizarre to me. So those two areas, they're not enough to make me say, hey, skip the Highlander. I
Right.
still really like it, but they're not great characteristics for any vehicle, let alone a family hauler.
Right. I do feel like it is pretty smooth over some of these rough roads, though.
Totally. That part is really nice. You do feel some of these pressure cracks, but in my opinion, that has almost as much to do with the 20-inch wheels and the low-profile tires that this one rides on than it has to do with the suspension itself. Some kind of broken pavement, you will feel it. It can get a little crashy, but overall, it is very smooth and comfortable.
Cool. So before we drive the Telluride, I did want to talk about the practicality aspect because for SUVs like this, it is so important. So according to the fact sheet, there's supposed to be more room behind the Telluride's third row, but as you can see, they are extremely evenly matched. I did want to mention though that the Telluride has this enormous underfloor storage compartment that the Highlander doesn't have.
That's not entirely true. There is one, it's just smaller. And crucially, there's a place to keep your cargo privacy cover, which that doesn't have. Means you're probably going to forget it in your garage. Now, something in the Highlander's favor, there is more cargo room with the third row folded, which I imagine is going to be a pretty common configuration in an SUV like this one. There's 1,371 liters versus 1,304. Not that that's a game-changing amount of room. What is game-changing, that third row itself is roomier. Something else the Telluride has in its favor, buttons in the back to fold down the second row so you don't have to walk to either door to fold them down like you do in here. Something else I don't like about this, you have to reach in and pull these little handles to fold the third row. It is kind of a pain, but honestly, I think I'm still leaning towards the Highlander.
I think the Telluride looks better though. I really like its boxy style. It has a really imposing road presence. Although I do really like the way the Highlander looks too, especially in the sportier trim.
Yeah, the XSE has some cool touches, especially inside. I love this red upholstery. But then from a practicality perspective, there's all kinds of little cubbies and shelves that you don't get in the Telluride. But it's time to go for a drive.
So we're in the Telluride now. Dan and I are having a bit of a crisis because we have never disagreed so much before. What's happening, Dan?
I really like, I don't know. It's not that I think this is a bad vehicle. It's just like the qualities that I look for in a vehicle, aside from feature count, which we'll get into, qualities that I look for in terms of like steering feel, which isn't about something sporty. This has like one of the biggest dead spots on center. Like it's just so vague. Ride quality is very stiff and crashy. Seat comfort is atrocious. I feel like I'm sitting on a stack of like folded cardboard boxes.
I will agree with you there. Like I do love this brown leather. I think it looks fantastic.
Great, yeah.
But like you're not the first person to mention how hard these seats are. And after hours of driving it, like my butt is sore.
Yeah, that's really not nice versus the Highlander. Those things are
like a sofa.
Yeah, it's great. And then, you know, the ride quality thing for me is a big one where this thing feels, you can feel how stiff the chassis is. It doesn't work as well with the suspension as it does in the Highlander, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I still prefer the way the Telluride drives, and to me, it feels a lot heavier, which I know a lot of people equate with feeling more like German, if that makes sense. I know that sounds crazy to you, but other people have told me that before. I prefer the way the Telluride drives because that sense of heaviness to me makes it feel more predictable. I felt like the Highlander was very like floaty.
See, I didn't get that at all. Like, I mean, the suspension, yeah, it's nice and soft if that's what but to me, like, the other problem is I kind of get what you mean, but then at the same time, this steering takes all of that weight and like perceived heft of the vehicle and throws it out the window the first corner you take. And it's like, it's just terrible. It does not match with the vehicle at all. And in fairness, that is not just a Kia problem. Like, if you take a look at the Subaru Ascent, that's even worse. The steering is terrible.
Yeah, that's true. I think like what it comes down to is that you and I look for very different things when it comes to crossovers. Like for me, driving dynamics comes second to features and style, like I think the Kia Telluride looks great.
Yeah, it's got tons of presence.
Yeah, it's boxy. I think it looks like a budget Land Rover kind of.
Yeah, but I mean, is it that budget anymore?
No, that's true. It's not. It is
Right?
quite expensive.
Like, it is crazy. Feel that? Like, I was just complaining about the body roll in the Highlander. This doesn't have so much body roll, but inside the vehicle, I'm moving around. These seats aren't supportive at all. I'm like slipping and sliding. There's no bolsters whatsoever. Like, maybe if I was like 400 pounds, I would be happy with this. But it's like right now, like I feel like I'm getting tossed around like a rag doll in here. It is not pleasant. Like I just don't like being in this vehicle. Yeah, I know.
So one thing I also prefer about the Telluride is that it has this V6, which is really like strong and smooth. I think everything works together really well. Like the transmission works really well. The all-wheel drive has been on point. I think it all just comes together really cohesively and nicely in a way that I didn't feel with the Highlander.
Yeah, I mean, the engine isn't a highlight in the Highlander, that's for sure. This one makes less torque, so I think it's 262 pound-feet of torque, but more horsepower.
Right.
That one makes 265. This one makes 291, I believe. It definitely has that sort of linear, progressive torque build-up because it's not like a turbo motor where it's on instantly at 1,600 revs in that case. This one is that nice progressive build up to 45 or 4,600.
And it doesn't sound as harsh as the Highlander
well, of course,
either.
But that's a four-cylinder.
I know it's not the same, but I think like when you're looking at the whole package.
Okay, so let's look at the whole package.
Okay.
Fuel economy.
Much worse here. I will admit to that.
Right.
So right now, we have about 400 kilometers on the clock. It's averaging 12.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is significantly worse than what we've been getting in the Highlander. So yes, definitely not as fuel efficient.
So that's the thing, right? Like what's the price you're willing to pay for that, audible refinement?
Right.
Because if you're talking about outright performance, they're pretty neck and neck. Like the Highlander doesn't feel like it's struggling to pass. Same thing. The all-wheel drive system is fully automatic just like this. And I've had no issues this week. The transmission is really great and responsive. The torque, like I would argue that it does feel like it pulls just a little bit harder. It's not about an acceleration test. That's not what these are about. But it's just, to me, when you take a look at them, the powertrain performances are neck and neck considering they're very different powertrains. The other thing we should mention, no hybrid here. You can get a hybrid with the Highlander. We're not talking about that for a couple of reasons. One, because this is the closest kind of gas-only one-for-one comparison. Also, the fact that Kia doesn't offer a hybrid with the Telluride.
Which I think is crazy. At this day and age, they should definitely be offering a hybrid since that powertrain already exists.
The powertrain exists, and if you take a look at Toyota, that 2.5-liter powertrain is the same one that you can get in the RAV4, the Highlander, the Sienna, the Camry. Right. So the fact that Kia can't do the same with the Sorento and Sportage hybrid system is a huge miss, but it also means we can't really talk about the hybrid. But yeah, if you're looking to really save fuel and you don't care as much about towing, then go with the hybrid.
Yeah, that's the other thing is that towing, this is rated to tow 5,500 pounds and it has a tow mode.
That thing's rated to tow 5,000 pounds.
Okay, so that's pretty close.
So it's not, again though, that you're going to notice a 4-cylinder has to work harder to keep that weight moving than a V6. You'll probably notice a fuel economy penalty in that regard, but how often are people actually towing with these things?
Good point.
And now we do have to talk about the feature count. And this is one of those interesting things because we usually try to separate the trims, unless it's like a straight head-to-head, like a one-for-one trim comparison. We do try to keep that as a sort of secondary, point. But here it stands out a lot more because yes, this thing has way more features than that Highlander.
But it's also a lot more expensive, so you do have to keep that in mind.
That to me is the huge one, right? So let's just say you're talking about these seats, this leather, it looks good. It feels okay. I don't love it. Heated and ventilated front seats, heated and ventilated second row seats, bigger touchscreen, big digital gauge display, blind view monitor, otherwise just about the same advanced safety features, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, all that good stuff, lane keep assist. But the big thing for me, does this feel like it's an $11,000 price premium over that Highlander.
I don't think so. So if you told me it was $5,000, I'd be like, okay, I can justify that. 10,000 becomes a bit harder for me to swallow.
It's crazy, right? And again, it comes down to, okay, you're talking about, you know, $47,500 or so before tax for the cheapest Highlander, right? So that's a good $5,000 less than the cheapest Telluride. There, you might look at it and say, okay, well, there are features included that you don't get in that Highlander, like the heated and ventilated front seats, you know, like the bigger touch screen, that sort of stuff. Okay, I'll give it to you, right? But as you move up the ladder, you can get a fully loaded Highlander, gas-powered Highlander, for about $57,500 before tax, okay? That means it's like $8,000 less than the most expensive Telluride. And the only things you're really giving up, aside from the blind view monitor and heated and ventilated rear seats, is what? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. You definitely have a good point.
To recap, we like how comparably affordable the Highlander is, its torquey new engine, and its relative efficiency. We don't like the way the brake pedal feels, how much body roll it has, or that the third row is fairly cramped.
When it comes to the Telluride, we like that it's very roomy, it comes with all kinds of features that you can't get in the Highlander, and that it has so much road presence. But we don't like how expensive it is these days, how much more gas it burns, or how uncomfortable those seats are.
Look, comparisons are never easy, especially when they involve two very good vehicles like these ones. We also understand that not all budgets are the same, and some of you out there won't mind paying more for your next family haulers.
That price is definitely a big sticking point for me, but the Kia Telluride is also an AutoTrader award winner, and for many good reasons, mainly that it has the space and the features that families will love. Especially if you have a family of more than 4 people, I do love the Telluride for that more spacious third row, and as a package, I think it comes together really well.
It's rare that we disagree this much, but even Jody knows the Highlander checks a lot of boxes too. Maybe not in terms of outright room, but it's smooth, comfortable, and livable. And it's hard to argue with Toyota's reputation for both safety and reliability. Now add in the Highlander's relative affordability, and it's definitely the one I'd park in my driveway.